Kindly sit down, and thank you for your courtesy. Executive Secretary Salvador Mijaldia and the other members of the Cabinet, His Excellency Quoc Tuan, Vietnam Ambassador to the Philippines, Pasay City Representative Amy Calixto Rubiano, AFE Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Ray Leonardo Guerrero and the other service commanders, other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I am leaving for Da Nang, Vietnam, for the 2017 APEC Economic Leaders Meeting. I anticipate a highly productive meeting, and I look forward to exchanging ideas with my fellow leaders and old friends on how we can strengthen relationships to sustain the economic vigor of Asia-Pacific region. As a founding member of APEC, the Philippines has hosted the economic leaders meeting twice. Our continued engagement in an investment in our economic future as our country seeks to sustain our development and work towards more significant investments and a golden age of infrastructure. I have accepted the invitation to speak to APEC CEOs on dialogue with big businesses, sustain our economic gains, and contribute to the prosperity of a larger Asia economic region. I will also participate in our continuing dialogue with APEC Business Advisory Council to deepen regional economic growth, integration, and to promote inclusive growth. When the Philippines hosted APEC, we have put forward these important initiatives of promoting inclusive growth, investing in human capital development, and the fostering of MSME participation in the global market. In the APEC meeting in Lima, Peru, I strongly supported the APEC Services Competitiveness Roadmap, a key outcome of our country since the services sector is the biggest contributor to our GDP. Ibig sabihin, tao. I made a strong pitch for food security through sustainable economic, agricultural, forest, and fisheries, beneficial policies to MSMEs, regulatory reform, human capital development and connectivity, and inclusive growth. This year will amplify that call for renewed vigor. We will continue to reiterate the themes of our development economic growth in order to reinforce our strategic importance to achieve the goals of realizing a prosperous Philippines with equal access to opportunities to all. As chair of ASEAN, we will use these platforms of ASEAN and APEC to promote advocacies close to the heart of every Filipino. Access to international markets of our MSMEs, a comfortable life for our people. Comfortable lang, okay na ako. Not so good a life or a luxurious life. I only dream for my country, a better life for our people, food security, connectivity, the rule of law, anti-corruption, and regional security. At the inaugural dialogue between APEC and ASEAN, as ASEAN chair, I will engage the leaders of our greater Asia-Pacific region to commit in pursuing our shared economic prosperity. This as we work jointly to ensure that our region is secure from the menace of transnational crimes such as illegal drug trade, terrorism, and extremism, and crimes at sea, or what you would know as piracy or piracy, if you may. Finally, we give support to our ASEAN brother, Vietnam, who holds this year's economic and the APEC chairmanship. This year is indeed a rare opportunity where two ASEAN member states chair key regional meetings, which is an opportunity to push for the ASEAN economic agenda. Upon my return, I hope to build up on the discussions at the APEC to boost the Philippines and ASEAN's agenda in our chairmanship of the 31st ASEAN Summit and related other summits. Thank you, and may you have a good day. Maybe I can... Secretary Andanar, if you have some guys who would like to ask questions, I would gladly
We have CCTV.
entertain.
Mr. President, we have a reporter from CCTV to ask a question.
Maraming nakalinya. Isa-isa lang. Bigat ang kalaban.
Afternoon, President. This time in Da Nang will be a special meeting between APEC and ASEAN.
Yes.
It's APEC ASEAN dialogue, leaders dialogue meeting. And I know as a chairperson of ASEAN, you will be hosting that meeting. And also, Chinese President Xi Jinping will also deliver an important speech on that meeting. So I would like to know, as the chair of ASEAN, what kind of expectation you will raise on that meeting, and what's your expectation from Chinese side you want to hear on that meeting? Thank you, sir.
Well, first of all, they should be hearing me as I would deliver the plenary first round. And maybe I'll talk about economic imbalance and the impact of globalization on those countries who are left behind. Those countries like us who export resources and they are manufactured outside of the country and we import them again, double the price of what we get when we export. These are the things that globalization has created a big gap. I hope that the economic giants would make the adjustments. Total, yung kung anong ibigay nila sa atin, kita na nila yan eh. It is not taxes of the people of their own country, but rather what they have maybe earned over the years as they occupy a higher ladder in the agenda of the economic world. So, and terrorism, and of course the China Sea. It's about time that ASEAN countries, not really to confront, but to make clear to us what China really wants. I suppose that I'd bring the matter because while we were focused on the dangers of North Korea regarding its saber rattling, and lahat doon nakatingin, I do not take it against China. He has claimed every part of it and nobody stopped him. So, tanungin ko lang siya, what are the stakes? You want to control the passage or do we have the free passage? Unbridled, undisturbed, unmolested, while we use that small way from the Indian Ocean, the Indo-China Pacific, which is facing Palawan. Not because I'm so much interested as a person, but for the sake of my country and the others who have the overlapping claims. And that is why the truth is, if I could only confront China, or if it is China alone, there's no problem. But I said there are contesting countries which has overlapping jurisdictions. And if I engage China now, I will have to engage the 5 others. It would be something like a scramble there. Because if China concedes to one, Philippines, it has to concede to the others. And what will now happen to our general claim of being the economic zone belonging to my country? That's a problem. So it's about time, either in the bilateral or in the plenary, I should be bringing this important matter to the surface so that we will know when can we be safe in traveling the China expansive, because they have claimed it now, and I'm sure that Trump now is busy talking about, it's all bustering. The real reason really is geopolitics. Nobody wants a war. I am very sure of that. China does not want it, because if there is a bomb drop somewhere in Korea, it will be a meltdown for the rest of Asia and Southeast Asia. It's all geopolitics. The name of the game is, but if not maybe handled properly, politics, political power of a country, and the military might. Might is right. Right is might. It could change the whole geographical situation. Geography is always dependent on how the powers of that era handle themselves.
And one follow-up, because you will meet President Xi in APEC, and after APEC you will meet our Chinese Premier Li Keqiang here in the Philippines.
Yes.
And it's his first time to pay an official visit to the Philippines. So I would like to know, like in 1 week you will meet the top 2 Chinese leaders. So how do you see the future between our 2 countries?
Look, we are all for a peaceful negotiation. It's always a mouthful of leaders saying rule-based, and the UNCLOS prescribes a peaceful resolution of conflicts of nations. We will stick to that. We are friends with China. May utang na loob tayo. At one moment in our life, or the lives of the Filipinos, they were there to give us the arms when we had none, and we are fighting it out in Marawi. These are the things that we cannot forget. But these things should not be used as not really a pawn, but as a bargaining chips on what is the greater interest of Southeast Asia, and more particularly, the higher interest of our country. Iba yung, nagpapasalamat ako sa iyo. I do not deny that. But let us be clear on what we intend to do here, because eventually it will affect the entire Philippine archipelago. Now remember, I said it's geopolitics. But the larger portion of that really is, there are so many military installations, and the islands are equipped with batteries. Ito man yung mga missiles and everything. They're all there scattered, and Vietnam has one. I said there's an overlapping claim of territory. Taiwan also is claiming the northern part, which will result in a very serious quarrel with us. And on the southern part, you have the Indonesian government also claiming, and the southern western part would be Malaysia. Singapore is, and Brunei, seems to be nonchalant about it because they are sure of their boundaries. And they do not have the slightest interest to use sea power. But ours is strategic in the sense that facing all the armaments there and brothers, we have the ace, and the ace is Palawan. You cannot sink an island, but I can always blast you off if you are there on the open seas. And that is why, let me just be frank with the Filipinos now. They say the Philippines is strategic in the sense that there is the South, which is racked with insurrection, extremism. So you have to take care of, you can just imagine, I don't know, I hope it would not, but if there is a change of geography or whatever development there, Australia will be an isolated island. If we cannot have the control of the ships here, the Malacca Strait, it is to the advantage of Malaysia, Philippines, and the United States to see to it that the Moluccas, which connects to the Sulu Sea, to the Indo-China passage, from the Indian Ocean going in. Yun ang what makes the Philippines very strategic is really Palawan. It faces the China Sea, and it is one huge battleship which you cannot sink. Tama?
P. Nanada of Rappler.
Good afternoon, sir.
Are you with Rappler still?
Yes, sir.
Rappler ka, no?
Yes, po.
Good.
Sir, can I just go to my question first? Because you're expected to meet U.S. President Donald Trump for the first time in Vietnam. So first question is, what are your expectations for this first meeting? And second question, what are the issues you plan to raise with him during your bilateral meeting, whether in Vietnam or here in Manila?
Well, number one is always trade, because that is the very life of nations. Then we will discuss extremism, terrorism, and third, maybe sa bilateral, they might want to ask a very definitive position of the Philippines vis-a-vis with China. Yeah. And to all of these things, I would just say that we all hunger for peace. And if we can talk about it in a very civilized manner, I would be glad to participate in the discussion.
Sir, just to clarify the point about China, you said you wanted to discuss with President Trump their position vis-a-vis the South China Sea
Yes,
dispute?
of course.
What exactly will you tell him? What would you want to impart to him about this issue?
China?
To Trump, sir, yung China issue with Trump.
Well, my response would always be based on what they have agreed on. I think they are meeting ahead, and we will wait for the results. And I will be in a position to give him at least a balanced answer.
Sir, are you going to
I am not, the Philippines is not beholden to anyone. The Philippines is a sovereign state. I will not allow anybody to impose anything on my country. I will listen to you. But if it is not to the best of interest for my country, I will ignore you.
Sir, just again, medyo not clear pa rin po yung position nyo. You want to, what position do you demand of the U.S. or would you want to ask from the U.S. with regards to the South China Sea dispute? Are you asking them to take
I
a
said
side?
I
or you-
cannot. I have to hear them first before I make my response, because it will be based on the outcome of their talks and the points that would touch the Philippines, I said, and I would have to decide what is best for my country alone. And it will be a decision that will promote the higher interest, the greatest interest, as a matter of fact, for my country. So that's why we're meeting there. We meet as sovereigns. I will not go there as a subservient lackey of anyone, including what you would like to hear from me, but which you cannot ask maybe or later on about human rights.
Thank you, sir.
You want to ask a question, I'll give you an answer. Lay off. That's not your business. That is my business. I take care of my country, and I will nurture my country to health. Nobody would.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, on a more local matter, sir, we just like to get confirmation. Did you ask that DDB Chair Dionisio Santiago resign from his post because of his views on the mega rehab facility in Nueva Ecija?
Well, ganito kasi, nagbitaw siya ng salita that it is a waste of money, that it is not the right approach. You know, you saw him in the previous administration. He was there. Bakit hindi niya ginawa? And to think na sabihin mo that force or military action alone or police action alone or both endeavors working together, eh, di ba nakita mo pa siya sa TV, pinagsisipa niya yung mga tao doon. So he came up with a very incongruous statement that I was offended. He could have asked me for an audience and then tell me all about it. Kaya kita nilagay dyan not to issue statements to the press. Nilagay kita dyan para magpunta ka sa akin kung anong problema natin sa bayan natin at turuan mo ako kung nagkulang ako kung anong dapat kong gawin. But you do not go open to the press and start to blabber. When as a matter of fact, your previous action, di ba nung siya pa, it was caught on TV, pinagsisipa niya yung tao. And then you come up with this deal that if you try to echo what is the popular, it's always what is popular. Kung sasakay ka lang dyan, I said, I do not have I cannot be re-elected. I'm there to work. And so I will work. And I rely on my judgment. If my talent is not enough, then did you elect me as president? Sorry. That is the only talent that I have.
Sir,
But I said, if it comes to destroying my country and destroying the young, I repeat, I will kill you.
Sir, have you decided on
Walang ano na dyan. But now, umiwas na ako. And I am really very surprised that they're still harping on me when as a matter of fact, I have distanced myself from the PDEA. It's now the PDEA. If it works very well, then I am ready to accept. Just like in Marawi and other police and military operations, upon my orders, I take full legal responsibility. Period. You can sue me and I will be glad to go to prison.
Sir, have you decided on a replacement for Mr. Santiago?
Let's talk about it when we'll have a cup of coffee in my office and I'll tell you all about it.
Sir, shift lang ako, sir, sa ibang topic.
Kasi yung piloto, nagagalit na.
Sir, isa na lang po. Sir, why did you order the stopping of the construction of Lipa huts in Pag-asa Island, near Pag-asa Island?
What is that?
Sir, sa Pag-asa Island, sir, yung...
I'm not quite aware of... wala akong... Is it a housing? Or,
Nipa huts for fishermen because of Chinese objections.
no, China never... in fairness to China, it never took a strong arm method. They always say, "You're honorable." They start with, "You're honorable. Can we talk about this? Can we talk about this?" To my mind, I said, there are so many contesting parties there, overlapping. Maybe the rest of the nation thinks that ang problema natin sa China is China alone. I said, there are overlapping territorial claims there. So you have to, it's better understood in the light of just talking to the nations. Ang China naman, they allowed us to fish and they go to the Pag-asa and I might as well, sabi ko, you can go there for a visit. As a matter of fact, you can shake hands with the commander there, the military. I will tell my military men to treat you to a lunch, but do not do anything that would disturb the equilibrium now present there. Okay?
Thank you.
We only have one last, Mr. President, from Cedric Castillo of GMA 7.
Sir, good afternoon. On the filing of the Ombudsman of usurpation of authority and graft charges against former President Aquino, Sir, Senator Trillanes says that it sets a bad precedent in that every time an operation fails, yung presidente daw po ang fa-file ng kaso o irereklamo, sir. I'd like to get your thoughts on this, and would you agree with Senator Trillanes, sir?
You know, that is what life is all about. For the first time or for the second or third time, Trillanes has a good point there. Yung usurpation of authority, actually, I don't know if I'm still good at my law. But, you know, the president has the supervision and control. Supervision and control means he can overturn your decision or will decide to exercise the function itself. All those under the appointed officers, lahat yan sila under the control. Yung function ng police, function ng military, the president can always intervene, modify, amend, or change altogether your ideas. And if he decides to do the police work himself, he is the commander-in-chief. He's the head of government insofar as the police is concerned kasi civilian in character na. For the military, he is the commander-in-chief. For this civil, dalawa yan eh, ganon yan. Tumingin ka muna dito. Ganon yan. President is there. For the military is the commander-in-chief. For the civilian sector, mayor, lahat yan, gobernador, the police, because it's now a civilian agency, he is the head of government. Lahat yan, kanya yan. Except dito sa local officials, the president has only the supervision, meaning to say that he will oversee that everything under his supervision will do their work legally and properly. yung mga governors, mayor. Elected yan eh. But for yung appointed ng presidente, it's being headed by a cabinet member, Department of whatever, Transportation. He is the alter ego, the shadow of the president. So if the main figure overrules the shadow, usurpation of authority. Yun ang sekreto, usurpation of authority. You cannot usurp what is inherently your duty. Okay? Tapos
Thank you,
na?
sir. Thank you so much, Mr. President. That ends our pre-departure press conference.
Take off na
Thank
ako?
you so much. Yes, sir.
Can I take off?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Salamat po.